Forget everything you think you know about what an alien looks like on the inside. Not the green skin. Not the large black eyes. Not the humanoid shape standing upright with 2 arms and a recognizable face. Those images come from movies, and movies are made by humans, for humans, imagined by brains that have only ever known one kind of life. What scientists who actually study this question have concluded is something far more unsettling. The internal biology of an alien organism, its skeleton, its blood, its brain, its senses. Every system keeping it alive would not just look different from ours. It would operate on principles so foreign that if you could somehow see inside one, you might not even recognize what you were looking at as a living thing. This is not speculation dressed up as science. This is what the actual physics and chemistry of the universe tell us life is allowed to be, and it is stranger than anything you have been shown. Let's start from the outside and work inward. The first question any alien body has to answer is the same one every body on Earth answers. How do you hold yourself up against gravity? On Earth, vertebrates like us solved this with an endoskeleton, a frame of bones on the inside with muscles wrapped around it. It works well under Earth's gravity, but change the gravity, and this solution stops being optimal very quickly. On a planet with significantly higher gravity than Earth, an internal skeleton made of calcium-based bone would need to be so thick and dense to support the creature's weight that the animal itself would barely be able to move. The more efficient solution, the one evolution on a high-gravity world would likely arrive at, is an exoskeleton, a hard external shell, the way insects and crustaceans on Earth are built. Distributing structural load across the outer surface rather than concentrating it at a central frame means a creature can survive forces that would crush a vertebrate flat, but an exoskeleton comes with its own brutal constraint. To grow, you have to shed it. Molt. Spend a period of time soft and completely vulnerable while a new, larger shell hardens around you. This means alien creatures built for high-gravity environments would likely spend parts of their life cycle in a state of near total defenselessness, which would shape everything about their behavior, their social structures, their reproductive strategies, in ways that have no real parallel in the world we know. Go even further and remove the assumption of a solid planetary surface entirely. In the atmosphere of a gas giant, where there is no ground to stand on, no surface to push against, no gravity pulling in a consistent direction relative to a stable floor, the skeleton becomes irrelevant. What matters instead is buoyancy, pressure resistance, and the ability to move through dense gas. Life there might have no skeleton at all, no hard structure of any kind, just flexible, gas-filled chambers and membranes that expand and contract to control altitude, the way a deep-sea jellyfish manages depth by adjusting its internal pressure. Imagine trying to build a concept of anatomy around a creature that has never in its evolutionary history needed anything rigid. Now go inside the body. The next problem every living thing must solve is how to breathe. How to extract whatever energy-carrying molecule its atmosphere provides, and get it to every cell that needs it. On Earth, we solved this in 3 completely different ways, and all 3 of them still exist simultaneously on this planet. Humans use lungs, active chambers that physically expand to pull air in and push it out, extracting oxygen through a massive surface area of membrane tissue. Insects use a completely different architecture, a system of tubes called spiracles that run directly from the outside air into the body's tissues, letting oxygen diffuse passively inward without any pumping mechanism at all. This works, but it imposes a hard size limit. Beyond a certain body size, the tubes become too long for diffusion to carry oxygen fast enough, which is why no insect on Earth is the size of a dog. Fish use gills, running water, or fluid over a membrane in a countercurrent system so efficient it can extract oxygen from water that contains only a fraction of a percent of it. 3 radically different solutions to the same problem, all working, all existing on the same planet right now. An alien world with a different atmospheric composition, a different pressure, different available gases, would produce a 4th solution, or a 5th, or something we have not yet imagined. On a world with very high atmospheric pressure and dense air, oxygen or its equivalent might diffuse directly through skin, the way some amphibians on Earth absorb oxygen directly through their bodies without using their lungs at all. A thick enough atmosphere of the right composition might make dedicated breathing organs unnecessary entirely, producing a creature whose entire outer surface is quietly exchanging gases with its environment at every moment. From the outside, it would look like it was not breathing at all. Move deeper into the body, and you reach the circulatory system, the way an organism moves nutrients, gases, and signals around internally. Humans have a closed system, a network of vessels with a pump at the center, and we fill those vessels with a very specific fluid, red blood cells containing hemoglobin, an iron-based protein that grabs oxygen molecules and carries them. The iron is why our blood is red, but here is something remarkable and almost never mentioned in this context. Octopuses, right here on Earth, do not use hemoglobin. They use hemocyanin, a copper-based protein that serves exactly the same oxygen-carrying function, and it makes their blood blue, not metaphorically, literally, chemically blue. The color of their blood is different from ours because they solved the same problem using a different metal. If the chemistry available on another planet favors different metals, alien blood might be green, or orange, or colors that have no name in any human language because we have never seen them in a biological context before. Some organisms on Earth skip the closed vessel system entirely. Insects have what is called an open circulatory system, where their equivalent of blood, called hemolymph, does not flow through vessels but instead washes freely around the body's organs, moved by a simple pumping structure. The organs essentially bathe in the circulatory fluid rather than receiving it through dedicated delivery channels. On a planet where an organism's metabolic needs are different enough, or where the available chemistry produces a fluid with very different transport properties, this open bath system might be far more efficient than anything resembling a heart and veins. There might be no pulse, no heartbeat, no rhythmic pumping signal at all. Just a constant, slow circulation through an open internal space. But nothing about alien anatomy is stranger, or more important, than what happens when you look at how the nervous system might work. The brain, in human terms, is a centralized command structure. One organ, sitting protected inside the skull, receiving signals from the rest of the body, and sending instructions back. This architecture makes intuitive sense to us because we live inside it. But it is not the only architecture that works, and Earth already proves this in ways most people have never thought about carefully. The octopus, again, offers the most vivid example. Of its roughly 500 million neurons, approximately 2/3 are not located in its central brain at all. They are distributed throughout its 8 arms, each of which can process sensory information and make basic decisions independently, without waiting for the central brain to respond. The arms do not just follow instructions, they think, partially, on their own. The octopus has something closer to 9 semi-independent processors working in loose coordination than one central command. Now take that principle further. A creature that evolved in an environment where damage to any single body region was extremely common might evolve a nervous system so distributed that no single point of failure could kill it. Not just arms that think, but a body where intelligence is woven through every tissue. We're destroying what would be, in human terms, the brain. Does not end the organism at all, because the organism has no brain in any localized sense. It simply has nervous tissue, everywhere. All of it contributing to a diffuse awareness that no injury could eliminate without destroying the entire creature at once. To look at such a being and try to identify where it keeps its mind would be like trying to identify where a river keeps its wetness. And then there are the senses. This is where alien anatomy becomes almost impossible to picture clearly, because the senses an organism develops are entirely determined by what information is most useful to detect in its specific environment. Humans rely primarily on vision because our sun produces abundant visible light, and our ancestors lived in environments where detecting that light gave them enormous survival advantages. But vision is far from the only way to perceive the universe. Sharks on Earth navigate using electroreception, detecting the minute electrical fields produced by the muscles of other organisms through special organs in their heads. Birds use magnetoreception, sensing Earth's magnetic field lines directly and using them for navigation the way a human uses landmarks. Snakes detect infrared radiation, sensing heat signatures rather than reflected light, which means they can hunt effectively in complete darkness by detecting the thermal outline of a warm body. None of these sense organs look like eyes. None of them work like eyes. And a creature that evolved in an environment with no visible light at all, perhaps deep beneath the ice of Europa's subsurface ocean, or on the permanent dark side of a tidally locked planet, might have no eyes whatsoever, might have no concept of vision, and might perceive its entire universe through electrical gradients and pressure waves in ways that no human sensory experience can prepare you to understand. Reproduction is the final piece of this anatomy, and it is arguably the most alien of all. Humans reproduce sexually, combining genetic material from 2 individuals to produce offspring. This is actually a relatively sophisticated and energy-expensive solution to the problem of generating genetic variety. Earth already demonstrates many simpler alternatives. Bacteria reproduce by splitting in 2. Certain plants reproduce by sending out runners that grow into independent organisms. Some species can switch between sexual and asexual reproduction depending on environmental conditions. On a world where the environment is extremely stable and predictable, where the advantages of genetic mixing are outweighed by the energy cost of finding and engaging with a reproductive partner, evolution might abandon sexual reproduction entirely, producing organisms that grow, divide, and continue indefinitely without ever requiring another individual at all. Reproduction not as a discrete event but as a gradual process of budding, splitting, extending, continuously reshaping without ever experiencing birth or death in any form a human would recognize. Which brings you to the most unsettling question underneath all of this. If an alien organism has no centralized brain, no eyes, no heartbeat, no visible breathing, no fixed body plan, no sexual reproduction, and no skeleton, what would you actually see if you encountered one? The honest answer is that you might not see life at all. You might see something that looks like a mineral formation, or a chemical gradient in a liquid, or a slow-moving pattern of pressure changes in a gas. Every assumption built into the human concept of anatomy, that life has a body, a face, a pulse, a recognizable boundary between itself and its environment, is an assumption built from one planet. One evolutionary history, one narrow slice of what chemistry and physics actually allow. The universe is not obligated to repeat that solution, and based on everything physics and biology actually tell us, the overwhelming probability is that it did not.